Hi guys, today we are driving a car. We are driving a car that needs no further introduction. We are driving the GR Yaris. Rumble, rumble, rumble. This is a car that I have reviewed before, but I feel like now that the hype has died down for this car slightly, I want to revisit this car and give it a second opinion. The first time I drove it, I was really hyped up because the entire automotive world was going crazy with this car. Everyone loved it. And part of that hype caused me to think of this car more like a hero than actually judge it like a car. And that's what I wanted to do today. Okay, last time when I drove this car, my general consensus was that this car feels like it has dual personality. When you drive it slow, not too fast, when you're driving 5, 6 tenths, it doesn't feel like a special car. The rally DNA doesn't really shine through. You would imagine if you're driving a rally car, it should feel special at all times. From the moment you start the car, from the moment you put your hand on the shifter, from the moment you turn the wheel, a rally car should feel special. But it felt more like a normal Yaris when you're driving 5, 6, maybe even 7 tenths. Okay? But once you start pushing it, then that's when it switches and becomes a fun car. But even when it was fun, it didn't feel like a homologation rally car. It didn't feel like that to me. I didn't quite put it like that in my review because my hype for the car was so strong. And so today I want to drive this car again and go through the same thinking process. Now, to be honest, I've had this car for 3 days already. This is my 3rd day of driving it. And I can tell you, on day 1 of driving it, when I took it home from my friend's house, which was about a 50-minute car drive. When I got home, I texted my friend instantly and I said, I gotta tell you, bro, I gotta be honest, I am struggling to fall in love with this thing. And then he asked me why. He asked me, why do you say that, sir? And I told him, well, immediately the first thing I didn't like was actually the shifter. I did not like this shifter because, okay, the action is pretty nice, it's pretty precise, it's nice, but it doesn't feel connected to the car. It feels like this could just be a switch, you know? It feels like I'm not actually shifting the gear, I'm just pushing a switch that then switches the gears for me. That's what it feels like to me. It lacks feel. And the shifter action itself, I don't know how to explain this, but it doesn't feel symmetrical. When I push up to 3rd, this throw is a longer throw than going down to 4th. It just feels a bit weird to me. And then the gate on the left is a very short and not so pleasant tug. Whereas if you go to the right to 5 and 6, it feels a lot stiffer and maybe a bit longer too. And so you get this short and kind of mushy feeling on the left, and on the right it's nice and stiff, which makes for the 3rd to 2nd a little bit tricky. But you see, it's sometimes I might get confused with 4th and 2nd. However, that was the first day. On the 2nd day of driving, I totally got used to it. Somehow my brain just reset and I was finding the shifter perfectly fine. And that happens, you know. Sometimes it takes a while for your neurons to make whatever pathway for the muscle memory to get embedded into your brain. That's what I think happened when I slept and I woke up and all of a sudden I'm happy with this shifter. To be honest, when I first drove my 996 GT3, I also complained about the shifter. Maybe I'm just a naggy person when it comes to shifters. I don't know. And okay, back to the conversation with my friend. I told him I didn't like the shifter, and then I told him I didn't like the engine. I didn't like the engine because I felt like it lacked character up top. Sure, it's extremely powerful for a 3-cylinder, but who told Toyota to go with a 3-cylinder? They could have gone with a 4-cylinder. They could have chosen a 2-liter turbo and could have pushed, let's say, the same amount of horsepower, but maybe a flatter torque curve, maybe, or maybe have a more explosive top end. I don't know, but what I felt like when I was pushing this car, especially between 5,000 to 7,000 RPM, is that the character of the engine, the tone, the sensory feedback that you get from it doesn't really hit a climax like what a motorsport engine should feel like. At no point do I feel like, yes, I want to push it more, I want to rev it out. No, I didn't really get that feeling. And what makes it more concerning is that I found it difficult to know what the rev range was at by just listening. I couldn't tell if I was getting close to the red line. Maybe this is something that just requires me to get used to. Maybe each car is different, but in a motorsport engine, you should be able to just hear when you get near the red line. But in this, it's not so simple. Let's try third gear. Just gets loud and not much character. I mean, the pull is good, don't get me wrong, but no change in volume, nothing. The pull is good, but it's lacking the excitement that I want from a homologation rally car. Okay, so those are the two main things which I complained to my friends about. But one thing that I made absolutely sure that I made it clear to him is that this chassis and the damping is just, it outperforms everything else in this class, I think. Well, I haven't driven a GR 86, but man, this thing is nimble and it has this stability to it that I find it a little bit hard to explain. It feels like all of the wheels of this car are pushed out towards as far out as the corners of the car. It has that really grounded and stable feel to it. And the way that this car reacts to steering inputs is so positive and nice. I gotta turn off the lane change thing. It's so reactive, but it settles really nicely too. The way that the weight balance just settles, and you can counter it with the steering input so intuitively. It's so easy. It's third gear. Under. This car tends to understeer. We're gonna try that again with let's put it in sport mode later, where most of the power will go to the rear. I believe it's a 60-40 split or something like that. And we will do it with traction control off, and I will demonstrate to you what this car is like on the limit. Let's put it in sport and traction off. And we're gonna go back there again, we'll circle back. But before we get back there, let me continue talking about the dynamics of this car. So my friend installed KWV3s on this. It's actually slightly lowered, slightly stiffened, and I think it's actually improved the handling of the car. It feels very, very stable when you do sudden changes and steering inputs. This thing is so much fun when you're on the highway and you're just zipping left and right to avoid traffic. Like this. It settles nicely. Let's avoid this bike. You can catch the weight of this car so intuitively. Understeer. I try to push. Understeer. Maybe a Scandi flip. Understeer. I don't know how to get this thing to oversteer. And you know what? 2 nights ago, it was raining and I went out in the rain because I wanted to play with this car in low grip situations to see if I can get it to oversteer, to get the tail to come out. But it just refused, and I have footage of it. I drove it for a full 30 minutes in the rain. I could not get the tail to step out. The only way I did it was by yanking on the handbrake, which, you know, this is not my car. I don't want to abuse it, and frankly speaking, I'm not a good enough driver to be doing handbrake turns. Not experienced enough. Understeer, understeer. Terminal understeer. That was a fuckload of understeer. Let's try this with a different approach. Let's put it in 70 rear and just try to push the tail out with the power. Oh, it's just understeer. What? What about downhill with more weight in the front? Power? Nope. Nope. No oversteer. Oh, maybe I just gotta really chuck it into a corner. Probably like, no, it's understeer. Still understeer. Oh, a little bit just now. But that's really awkward. And that brings me back to one important thing, and that is the press and the marketing. The marketing for this car made it seem like this is a drift monster, but in reality, it's not easy to get this thing to drift. It really isn't. Maybe my driving technique is just not good enough. I don't know, but if a car makes me feel bad about myself, then maybe it's not a car that I should love, you know? One more thing is heel and towing in this car, the pedal position. It's doable, but it's not easy. I find it a bit difficult to do it. The pedal position is just not so ideal for heel and towing. Someone else on the bridge. Let's go the other way. No worries. We still got time. This exhaust is extremely loud. It's almost like a megaphone, like a trumpet when you're between 3,000 to 4,000. And then it becomes quiet again when you reach the top. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like this exhaust. Under only. The rear is just stuck. It refuses to come out. I don't understand. But during these kind of maneuvers, this car is so easy. It's so stable. It refuses to step out the back end. Tire pressure, well, it could be tire pressure. I put them all on 32, 33 PSI, so I don't know. Let's see. Now it's 34, it's a bit high, because it's driving kind of fast. But all 4 tires are on the same tire pressure. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. Okay, what else have I not talked about? Well, there is the brakes, and that is probably one of my favorite things about this car are the brakes. These brakes are so good. They bite instantly and it's powerful. Look at how good these brakes are. Better than the Brembo GTs on my M135i. The instant bite is next level. Really good. I would say it's maybe even better than the GT3. The 996 GT3. So, this car, I feel like if you drive it slow, it doesn't feel special, it's not so fun. Because all of the touch points, the inputs are just, it doesn't give you much feedback. Then when you drive it fast, it gets more and more fun. As you approach 10/10ths, it gets so much fun because the handling and the chassis is so great. The brakes give you confidence to really push it. But when you step over the limit, like this, yeah, it's really easy to correct. But it only understeers, and I was at the red line, I didn't even know. Because the engine wasn't telling me that. I was looking at the road, not at the rev counter. I didn't know I reached the red line because I couldn't hear it. I want to love this car. I love looking at it. It's one of the best looking cars out there. And technically, it's a great driving car. It's so nimble, so easy to control. Gives you so much confidence. But the two things that are lacking are, I must say, it's lacking a bit of soul, and it lacks that fun factor when you are over the limit. The inability to get the rear to step out is really frustrating me. I'm really questioning myself. Maybe I'm just a bad driver. Let's give it one last chance. We still have one more set of corners left. Have some more fun. See? I had no clue I was at the red line. Under. What if I go in slow and try to get on the gas? I guess the only way is to turn and brake? I don't know. That was all understeer. Complete understeer. Okay. I am on public roads. That is as much as I am willing to push it before it just becomes completely reckless. We'll need to take this car on track, see what it really is like on high speed limits. And when it's on high speed, when all four corners are near its grip limit, let's see what happens. But on the road, I just cannot do that. It's too dangerous. And that makes me unable to fall in love with this car. As simple as that. It's technically so good, but just lacks these two things that I mentioned. The soul and playfulness. These two things. If you're not trying to make the chassis dance, it's such a great car. It's so nimble, so stable. Brakes are so good. I'm just repeating myself now. But it's really important to get these main points across, and I don't know, maybe someone in the comment section, if you own a GR Yaris, you can tell me, how do I get this thing to step out? Final chance? Let's see. Nope. Maybe if I had kept the corner going, it would have stepped out, maybe, but that's too much effort. That's way too much effort to get something to step out. You can't use it on the road. I mean, you can't play with it on the road. Maybe you shouldn't. But in my 135i, you just give it gas and the thing just wants to fly out sideways. That is so much fun. Not as sharp, not as precise. The chassis is... This car is on another level compared to the 135. But I love that car more. It's more fun. It has more soul. The engine sings near the top end. You know when you're near the red line. And the chassis is playful. You can get it to slip easily. Maybe it's not fair because this is all-wheel drive, but they marketed this car as a drift machine, so why is it not drifting? I don't know. Anyway, enough of me nagging. Would I buy this car for myself? Well, if I had a lot of spare money and I want a fun little car to, to drive in the city, maybe to take it to track once in a while, maybe, but this wouldn't be on the top of the list. I've never wanted to love a car so much, but I'm struggling to love it. But I still want to love it. I still love looking at it. I still love starting the car up and driving it. But when I start pushing it, I'm reminded that, oh, this is why I can't love it. Every day I wake up, I drive this car, I want to love it, but I cannot. It's a weird conclusion. It is a weird conclusion, but it is my conclusion of this car. And I hope the owner who is watching this video right now will understand why I came to this conclusion. And he'll sell me this car for cheap. Okay, bye guys. Thanks for watching. Alright, so this is the last day of driving the GR Yaris. And tomorrow I'm gonna have to return this car. And I don't know what to say, because the more I drive this car, the more I start to like it. I'm getting to the point of starting to actually love driving this car. I must say, driving this car more and more, the things that I do appreciate about it, it does extremely well. I didn't mention the steering of this car. This steering is, it is almost perfection. I mean, it doesn't give you the best feedback and feel, but it's so sharp and amazing. And the way that the car reacts to your steering is also just so damn good. It's so confident. You can really push this car all the way to its limits so confidently and so joyfully. This car is actually full of joy when you drive it. It wants to dart left and right. It's made for this. And driving this car fast and clean is such a joy. And the key word here is driving it clean. If you're able to drive it clean and fast, you would love this car. On the track, this car would be immensely fast and fun. But once you do get to the limit, maybe there's a way to fix it. Maybe you can change the alignment of the suspension to make it more tail happy. I'm sure there are solutions for that, because even the 996 GT2 came out of the factory being understeer monster because they were scared of it being too snappy. But if you readjust the suspension, that car is a drift monster too. So I'm sure there are ways to fix it. So I don't want to get too hung up about the characteristics over the limit, because I'm sure there are ways to fix it. Which brings us back to the engine. Well, okay, it lacks character, but you know what? Once you get used to it, it has ample power. Once you get used to what it feels like towards the red line, you don't complain as much about the lack of character near the top end. And so it's something that's not perfect, but once you get used to it, it's perfectly adequate. That's all I have to say. Could it use more power? Yeah, it could. It probably could use, I would say, maybe 20 to 30% more power. But that is the case with so many cars today. So many cars can use more power. So I don't think it's fair saying that to the car. So at the end of the day, would I want to own one? My answer is yes. Well, because I love the way that it looks. I love the way it makes me feel. Everyone compliments this car. That is a huge plus. I enjoy it when I drive it. I have so much fun. The car feels joyful. It feels like, it just feels happy when you're driving it. The lack of feel is something you get used to. Unfortunately, most new cars don't feel as good as this anyway. So it's just something we all have to get used to. And this car is a future classic for sure. It definitely is. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys, and have a good one. Bye.